Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 382 of CryptoBiography, and it's part 5 of Repercussions. And before we start, I just wanted to say that it's a little short this week. I ended up I decided to cut a scene because I wanted to take the story in a different direction. It ended up anyway, it got very messy, and so the part that I'm actually reading is quite a bit shorter than usual. It won't take very long to finish, I don't think. But I'm happier with it than I would have been if I had struggled ahead with the bit of the story that I decided to cut. So anyway, having said that, here we go. But that was the last good night for a while. Shortly thereafter, her mole program stopped giving new information. It was well designed, and even if they took it apart, they likely would never be able to trace it, but it might give them some idea she was onto them. The program had some surface features that made it look like it was looking for passwords or account information. With any luck, they would think it was a phishing or a ransomware attempt. She had a couple of sources who knew Catherine. Now that the program was kaput, she would ask them to let her know about any changes to her activities that might indicate she was investigating the program. Meanwhile, her country home had been infiltrated, and she had cut all ties to it. She was busy selling the property through her intermediates. She didn't think it could be traced back to her, but she wanted it gone regardless. It also meant that she would eventually be able to move the funds around and have them available to her, but that wouldn't be for weeks at least, probably months. She had learned what she safely could do already. Finding out more about the security company was high on her list, but it would take some time to get an angle in on them. She spent a fair bit of time in her own neighborhood. She was doing this to see who belonged there and determine if anyone was trying to surveil her. So far, that had not turned up anyone dangerous. This played at her natural paranoia. If she didn't see someone, now that she knew that there was a very real conspiracy of people coming for her, did that mean that they hadn't caught up to her, or were they just very good and she hadn't caught them yet? Fortunately, paranoia was part of her business, and so it wasn't pathological for her. She'd cut off ties to her friends ever since she had started on her job to kill a billionaire. She would have reconnected with them had it not been for the people coming after her. Though she missed the company more and more, she absolutely refused to do anything that would put her friends at risk. Still, she missed them, and she did have ways of connecting to them that couldn't be traced back to her. But she knew them. Almost all of them would find ways to come to one of her houses and check on her if they knew she was back in town. Only 3 of them knew about her beach house, but almost all of them had known about the country house and had been there before. They might go there and be seen because she was sure the place was being watched constantly. It was one of the reasons she was avoiding the place so completely. She let them know through hidden messages that she was doing fine, but she'd be out of the country for a while and not to worry about her or try to check up on her. She decided that she would take a break from it all. She had her ways of connecting to most of her sources. She took a flight, first class, to Italy. It was her favorite place. It gave her a chance to practice her Italian and enjoy some of her favorite food. It was not the best time of year to go, weather-wise, but she didn't mind. She walked the streets of Rome, enjoying the beautiful ruins and thinking on her situation. When she returned, she wanted to get some work, so she looked at the jobs being offered. There weren't many, but one stood out because it offered as much as the last job, but without the extra niceties. As long as the target died, she would be paid well. The snag was the target was a higher-up in a street gang in South Los Angeles. She was of mixed race, but mostly white and Chinese. Though she had a bit of black in her heritage as well, it wasn't enough to allow her to go through black areas unnoticed. In fact, it wasn't even enough to make her hair curly. The only part of her that was likely affected was that she was a bit darker than otherwise. Sometimes people from Southeast Asia asked her if she was from their country. It would make the research part of this job more difficult. She was, in the end, able to put a bug on his car and heard some very interesting conversations between her ostensible target and her source, who had let her know about the hit. The details were not clear, but what was clear was that her target was being paid a lot to play that role, and it was expected that she would die in the attempt on his life. That ended her interest in that job, but not in her source. Her source would have to be taken care of. And that's the end of the episode this time. I hope you're enjoying it. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook, X, or Mastodon. And thanks for listening. Words of Music, copyright 2024, Brandon Starr, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.